Earlier, we tried a different discretization method and discretized the age column. And now we can look at some other columns that have too many values that may not be very informative. During the exercise we did know your data, we have already noticed that the armed field has a lot of different weapons mentioned that was used to confront the police. So you can see pole, spear, bottle, stapler. Okay, that's a weapon too. Okay, um, chain, metal pole, gun. So as you can see, those is too much a variety to be very informative, especially in our data set. We only have about 40,000 observations, and then we have 85 different um, kind of weapons that was involved in the incident. So this is way too many of variation. What we want to do is to discretize this. How do we discretize numeric categorical variables? We do it by create more broader groups. Remember the concept hierarchy. Here we're not going to create a really hierarchical structure, but it will be really helpful for in real mining tasks. That could be a very powerful way to solve the problem. In this exercise, we're going to create a flat group. And we can, what I'm suggesting is you can actually create multiple layers of the groups to create a hierarchical structure. That will give your future analysis more flexibility in terms how how much information you want to bring into the analysis. Here, after I read this 85 different values, I came up with something, a group of a set of types that I want to group those data into it. So undetermined is certainly one group. Unarmed is another group, distinct. And with the other things, objects, what I observe is firearms and objects look like a gun, probably going to create a similar level of threat to police. So therefore, I put them in one group. Knives and other sharp things would be another group. Vehicles, it's interesting thing. I think vehicle probably, I mean, it creates harm in a different way, so I thought I put them into a different group. Okay, so first of all, we want to count how many. Now we start to create this group. The first step I did is to count. To count how many different occurrences, number of occurrences for different types of weapons. So gun is the most prominent, and knife and unarmed, and there's lots of NAs. So I followed this and group everything into my preset groups. So this again, as you can see, this decision has a level of subjectivity in it, and my basic assumption is the weapon should be evaluated based on the perceived threat to the policeman. So now this is the method, the code that I use to group things. This is basically a mapping, right? So if it's an NA, if the string coming in is an NA, I'll return NA as a label. If the return is the incoming string is unarmed, then I will return unarmed as a label. If string is undetermined, it's undetermined returned. If it's vehicle, return vehicle. Then anything in this group going to be considered as gun or gun-like. So anything involved gun, you can see gun and car is grouped in gun, not in the vehicle. This is again, this assumption that I think gun is more prominent, creates more threat than car. So all those considerations, I think, when you do your data analysis, you should have a log to record your thoughts and all those decisions that's being made. So yeah, toy weapon, I don't know. It may be very realistic. It might create the same level of perceived threat as the policeman. And then the last category is anything else that's sharp, sharp objects, knives, goes into this. And anything else will be other. So this is how I made group. Let's run this. And now we can actually run this method to apply the group method to each of the armed um, um, value. So that gives armed type. Now we can look at our data set. Again, armed type is added. So this originally was a character. Now it's still a character, but eventually we're going to turn it to be a factor. So earlier age group is a factor that we created. You probably also want to observe character has quotation marks around it. Factors don't. Factors don't have quotation marks, and they are internally represented as integers. So I'm going to terminate this video and start a new one to talk about what other attributes and if we need to add information, gather information from other sources to enrich our data set. So this would be the attribute construction, relevant to the attribute construction part of the lecture.